This guy's here. The one and only Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, joins us every Friday to talk about some of the top stories of the week. Robert. Stephen A. Smith is at it again. I always say Stephen A. Smith can't quit LeBron James, and apparently I can't quit Stephen A. Smith. Which is probably just the way he wants it. So he gets it. Stephen A. Smith going at it with the New Orleans Pelicans. I remember a time. I'm going to reminisce here a little. I remember a time when I used to work with one of the ESPN radio affiliates in Hartford, Connecticut, even in New York when I worked for their O&O there, where I was always told by ESPN, don't make it personal. You can say whatever you want, just don't make it personal. Boy, have those days changed. Because with Stephen A. Smith, it is always personal, Robert Littal. He took a shot at Zion Williamson this week, talking about his weight, because that drum hasn't been beaten to death. Especially when the guy's in the midst of like one of the best stretches of his career, playing in 35 straight games. And looking good when he's on the court. Looking like the dominant player we thought he'd be when he's on the court. Then the Pelicans clap back with Stephen A.'s greatest hits, which is to say not his greatest hits, from a not-so-athletic-looking Stephen A. Smith. And then Stephen A. Smith comes back again. I still come back to this. Why is ESPN allowing their platform to be co-opted by a guy who's just constantly out to settle scores? I can't wrap my head around that. That they think this is good. That they think this is good.
Well, first off, I thought like it was all like a game, like the WWE. I thought they were, I thought it was playful, we go back and forth. But then, I think it was Jason Williams that said behind the scenes, Stephen A's feelings were really, hurt by this. And he did take it personal. And that's why he did 12 minutes monologue on probably an admin who's some 23-year-old guy or girl that's still in college, that's TikToking, and he just spent 12 minutes on them. But the reason why they do it is, I'll be honest with you, Jason, they feel that's what gets engagement. They feel that's what social media, has become. The clapback, so to speak, is more important than saying, well, man, Zion has played 35 games in a row. How should the Pelicans, handle that going, forward, as somebody that they had thought about trading, several times? Could he still be a cornerstone, like actual topics aren't. They don't do that anymore. And I think for a while they tried to hide it. They tried to fake it. But now they're just embracing it. This is a guy that his takes have nothing to do with basketball or sports anymore. It's like you say, it's all about him. He's Vince McMahon of ESPN.
And the more he does have to talk about sports, the more he gets exposed. Because the problem now the problem is he stretched himself so thin with the politics and the political talk and doing 17 shows a day. And by the way, I don't have a problem with guys who want to work hard. I think he's a bit of a media whore at this point. But I don't have a problem with guys that want to work hard, get their money, whatever it may be. But the problem with that is you get exposed, and now you have to go for these sort of personal topics, that sort of thing, as opposed to being able to talk about sports. Because when he does, he talks about guys that aren't even coaching teams that are fighting cancer, or he gets the name of somebody wrong or a position wrong or something like this, and he gets exposed because he can't talk about sports anymore because he has to talk about these bigger social issues or these personal topics.
If people really wanted to get rid of Stephen A, or really, you would have to, like you said, stop talking about him. Because it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive or neutral. Just the fact that his name is continuously being brought up is what fuels, his popularity. And I think he's realized that. And that's why any and everybody who even mentions him, there's a 12-minute reply on one of the 1,000 shows that he has.
Yeah, and then and it's always this personal affront, like, oh, I can't believe they attacked me.
I can't believe.
Like he's such a snowflake. You want to talk about Snowflake Central? Stephen A. Smith, grow some tougher skin.
Yeah, he's very sensitive for someone that talks
Yes!
about people
who loves to attack people. Stefon Diggs. We've been talking about the NFL. Yeah. We just did it in the last segment with Sam. Stefon Diggs. Are we almost near the end of the rope for him when you come to the combination of on the field, off the field? Are we nearing that point where Stefon Diggs is sort of on his way out of the league?
Yeah, I feel like, he was productive. I mean, he wasn't, prime Stefon Diggs. Maybe he was serviceable. He wasn't like a bust or anything. I mean, they did get to the Super Bowl, but I think what you said is the price tag. Along with all of the drama. So, you're not going to, I think they paid him $20 million for the 1 year, close to that in New England. And then before with the Texans, he had $20 million. I think now, if he wants to still play, that's fine, but he's going to be on what I like to call that NBA star retirement tour, where the Carmelos and the Russell Westbrooks and the Allen Iversons, where they have to go to a bunch of different teams, but they have to take low money if they want to play. I think he has to get his court cases cleared up. I don't think anybody touches him while there's an active case going on, but he's the type of guy now that he's not going to get that call until somebody gets hurt in training camp. Maybe the first week of the season where his contract is not guaranteed. He's in that realm of player now, and he has to be really, really careful because one misstep and one more misstep, and that could be it.
I got a minute left in this segment. We're holding you over for one more. Real quick, how's Odell Beckham Jr. broke?
I would hope he's not broke. But in the immortal words of Patrick Ewing, they make a lot of money. They spend a lot of money. He's got you can visually see the money that's being spent, without, counting in their pockets. So I'm not surprised. I mean, this happens to a lot of NFL players from the top to the bottom.
Happens to basketball guys, too.
Basketball guys, too. Yeah.
I mean, it blows my mind that these guys by now don't have the right people around them to give them that financial common sense. It just blows my mind. When I see this about OBJ, it kind of makes me sad. And I know I shouldn't feel sorry for a guy that's made all that money and blown through it, but it kind of makes me sad when I see these sorts of things.
He's good looking. He can model or something like that.
I'm surprised he hasn't done TV. He's got a personality.
Yeah, he's kind of fell out of that world.
Yeah.
But I think he's the type that could make it come back.
All right. Robert Littal is going to hang around for one more segment. Trinidad Chambliss and the NCAA still going at it, and a bunch of women's basketball to get to, including a brawl you got to see next. Welcome back. Coming up in 10 minutes, Tino Patino talks NASCAR. Big race in Phoenix this week. Can Tyler Reddick make it 4 in a row to start the season? Already an unprecedented 3 in a row to start the season for him. Michael Jordan, his racing team, Robert Littal. MJ, still finding ways to make news.
Got me watching little NASCAR.
I still don't think people are tuning in to watch Michael Jordan standing around watching cars go around in circles, though.
Well, I'm always interested in the racing sport. So, and I'd be perfectly honest with you. When you see a brother in a sport that's normally predominantly, another color, I think, it's like watching, tennis and Serena Williams. It's like we get into it a little bit because there's a little, pride involved in it.
Yeah, that's fair. Trinidad Chambliss and the NCAA, the dispute that will not go away. We thought Trinidad Chambliss was going to get one more year of eligibility. The NCAA says not so fast, Lee Harvey. They are going after Trinidad Chambliss. It feels like they've made this sort of their cause in trying to keep guys from getting all these years of eligibility. They're, appealing the ruling of the appeal that he won. Again, this is the new battleground for college sports, Robert Littal.
Yeah, what I think they would be better off doing, just, maybe changing just let him do him and just change the rules, make a little bit more hard line rules. Maybe everybody gets 5 years and that's it, regardless of injuries or whatever it may be. Maybe change the red shirt rules around. And what is also fair from a competition standpoint, because you look at the teams that have won championships, recently. These guys have a lot of 24, 23, older guys. And when they go up against a team that has mostly 19, 18, 20-year-olds, it's the gap is you can see the gap. So I do think they need to make some changes. I just think Trinidad Chambliss is not the hill, to die on.
But I'll tell you where this could get chaotic is the longer this drags out. If he loses this next year of eligibility and gets stuck not being able to do anything for a year, I almost wonder, he's got to kind of have some sense of what the playing field looks like here, and good legal advice as to whether or not he's going to win or lose this thing. Because here's the thing. He goes into the NFL draft tomorrow. He's probably the second quarterback taken, maybe the third. And in a season where there's teams looking for quarterbacks, he'll probably be a first-round pick, early second-round pick. If I'm Trinidad Chambliss, am I sort of rethinking this?
I thought he should have left.
I do too.
I felt like his stock was never going to get higher than what it was, after the playoffs. And next year, you never know, but next year it looks like a little bit better, class of quarterbacks. But the combine is over. Pro days are coming up, and the draft will be here in April. So there's not a lot of time, left. So I think he's all in. It's Ole Miss, and I think if something like that happens, I think he sues the NCAA for lost wages.
Let's talk about South Alabama, Coastal Carolina women's basketball. You know that something really weird had to happen if we're talking about that in this show, Robert Littal. An all-out brawl. You've got 8 players ejected. You got a ref getting knocked out. This was crazy. And I'll tell you, for all the talk about, sports and all these different things that we get into in these social conversations, women's sports versus men's sports, man, the women get after it, especially in basketball, where it's like orange is the new black. Everything but the shiv coming out in some of these brawls that we see, Robert Littal. And we see it in the WNBA and now seeing it in women's college basketball.
I feel that I don't have the numbers, but just my eyes just feels like
anecdotally,
they're a little more physical and they're a little more feisty. And then when they do throw down, it's not a lot of hold me back. In the NBA, there's a lot of. Even though lately it's been a little more, this year it's been more. But in the
there
NBA,
is a lot of hold me back, hold me back.
I'm gonna get him. There's
and
not
then
a
you
lot
run
of hold me
behind
back
somebody.
when the ladies go after it. I don't know if they're just faster. I don't know what it is. But when the ladies decide they want to throw hands, the hands are being thrown. And people got to understand because they're watching on TV, and the same thing like when you're watching the NBA on TV, because everybody's tall, they look all the same height, right? If you've been to a WNBA game, you've been to a college. These are big women out there. These are not little. These are even the guards are 5'8", 5'9", 5, which is the average height, of a man, and they're in peak physical shape. So you think women fighting, and you're like, oh, he's dainty. Oh no, these are big girls that are out there with some big hands and big feet. Throwing hands. And
Before we go, we come back a week from now. It'll be March 13th when you and I talk next on the air. I'm sure we'll text before that. When we come back, will the WNBA have a collective bargaining agreement done, or will we be talking about the WNBA losing games to a work stoppage for the first time?
No, they're going to lose games. I think their own, people are against each other. Like they're fighting not just the NBA and the WNBA. I think there's some infighting going on as well. I think the ladies have learned that they actually make more money doing other stuff. So it's not an end-all, be-all. It's
but not all of them do. That's the problem. So you've got players on the lower end of the food chain that are saying...
Always remember, it's always the top that determines what happens to the bottom. Yeah. That's why the NFL never... has a really good CBA because the top doesn't want to help the bottom. So, I think they lose some games.
Robert Littal, Black Sports Online founder. Always love talking to you, my friend. Have a great weekend.
One other thing.
Yeah.
If Russell Westbrook gives you an opportunity to talk,
you
talk.
This.
You don't wait and do a podcast the next day. I didn't like that from the media.
Actually, we're going to end the segment. More with Robert Littal next week. Check out the YouTube channel because Robert and I are going to hash this out here for a second. More Sports Wrap. Don't go anywhere. On the Westbrook thing, I watched that this morning.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty. I mean, look, he's calling out people, but at the same time, one of those reporters says, all right, what'd I say? And then Russell Westbrook doesn't say, oh, well, you said A, B, and C, because he didn't have receipts. He didn't really have the receipts. So in my mind, I'm like, I kind of get some of what Westbrook is saying, but then if a reporter calls you out and claps back and says, okay, well, what did I say? You can't just you have to come with receipts and be prepared in that spot. And he wasn't.
I think my issue was one of the reporters was after it all happened, for whatever, at 2 a.m. is like, check out my podcast tomorrow about what happened with Russell Westbrook. And I'm like, no, we can't do that because there was an opportunity right there. That's what he was talking about. He's like, let's have a conversation right now. It's not like the Kings had anything better to do. It's not like the Kings media had anything. There's no deadlines when you've lost 50 games, in the season. I think they should have had I thought it was an amazing opportunity to have a real conversation between a superstar athlete that has been a big thing and a team that's losing, and a disconnect between the media and the team. And I thought one of the things that Russ said was interesting. It was like, the younger guys, they ain't going to say anything because they're young and they don't know what they're doing. I've been in the league. I can have this conversation with you guys, and I respect what you guys do, but I don't like X, Y, and Z. Tell me why, explain to me why. And a couple of guys were like, well, you guys lost all the games and all this. But a couple of them was really quiet and then got on social media and started talking. And I feel like that's one of maybe the number one thing that athletes and media have a disconnect on. They feel like we're good at talking to them on our shows and online and in our websites and on our TikToks. But when we get face to face, it's
and you heard a lot of that where guys were like,
I heard a guy, his voice got all high and cracky. And this has happened to me before. I've had to go up against guys like Draymond Green who's challenged me in big time situations. You have to, those are demarcation marks of your career, how people are going to see you. Are you going to stand your ground on what you're going to say when it's face to face? Or are you going to, I just didn't like that. I feel like, and I don't always like the way Russ handles the media. And I think, sometimes he can come off a little difficult to deal with. But in this particular situation, I felt one of those reporters or all of them should have been like, okay, Russ, here's what I think. And just let it all out. And I thought it would have been a really cool thing. And it didn't. Now it's like, come watch my podcast. And I'm like, that's the Stephen A. Smith way.
Yeah.
That everybody say that they don't like.
Yeah. And I will say this for Russ. I thought his tone was measured. Like he wasn't screaming and throwing his arms around or anything like that. He wasn't happy, and you could tell he was upset and he wanted to get it off his chest, but he did not it wasn't let's throw down. It wasn't.
And I'm looking at I see a headline right now. Russ goes off on media.
Yeah.
That's not what happened.
No.
See what I'm saying? That's the stuff that makes us look bad. He was civil. I mean, he was Russ.
Yes.
But he was like, talk to me. Tell me. Now, he wasn't going to agree with them.
Right.
And he was going to go back and forth with them. But we need more of that and less, like we keep saying, the Stephen A. Smiths, the crazy headlines that don't match what actually happened. Yeah. So I felt a certain way, about it.
Yeah. Robert Littal, always appreciate you, my friend. Have a great weekend. Check him out, Black Sports Online.